Good evening and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. In case you're joining us live, we are now calling tonight's council work session for the town of Bladensburg to order. At this time, we will move right into the agenda with the item number 2, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McBride. Any corrections, amendments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Next, we'll move into the approval of the December 12th work session minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Rout. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any corrections or amendments to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Thank you all for helping us move right through those first through items because we are privileged tonight to have the MDOT SHA representatives with us for our district. And so I want to welcome, bless you, welcome Ms. Hughes, Mr. Campanetas, trying to see the other names of your team members. We have 25 minutes allocated in totality to this portion of the agenda. So what I'd ask is if you could go through the presentation in about 10 to 12 minutes, and then we dedicate the balance of the time to any discussion and questions from the council, or somewhere there about 15 with 10 minutes for questions. So with that, Happy New Year, SHA team. Thank you all for coming back. And Mr. Campanetas, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. My name is Peter Campanetas. I'm the Assistant District Engineer for Traffic on the Prince George's County side. I'm going to give this over to Winstina Hughes to make some brief remarks before beginning the presentation. Winstina?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. We're looking forward to presenting to you the context-driven corridor improvements that we have for 769C. We've been working on them with you for the last several months, and we're excited to present the work that we've done. With us is our district engineer. He was our acting district engineer, and he's officially the district engineer for District 3 and MDOT, Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration. So I'd like to officially introduce Mr. Derek Gunn to you. It's exciting to work with him, and so we're all celebrating. Peter Campanetas, he is our Assistant District Engineer of Traffic. He'll be giving the presentation today. Carm Sierra, she is our new Customer Relations Manager. You've known of me in that role, but Carm is that. And also Mr. Rouge Safar, she leads our engineering systems team, and she's going to be, part of this presentation with you today. And the role that I've stepped into is Planning and Strategic Partnership Manager for District 3. So I'll let Peter jump into the presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm presenting to you Maryland 769C, Quincy Street. This is the context-driven corridor improvements for the town of Bladensburg. Wanted to give you a little bit of a summary as to where we've been over the course of the last year and a half, and I appreciate all of you for your patience along with us on this journey to fix this roadway for pedestrians and bicyclists. So the town Bladensburg approached us in the summer of 2021 to continue the project to provide a walking path along 769C from 48th Street to 52nd Avenue. The ask at the time was to determine if there was a way for us to provide a temporary path while the project was continuing through design. And after a couple of months of looking at the corridor, M.SHA came up with an alternative interim improvement to convert this two-way section to a one-way traffic pattern. Then this was the a feasible way for us to provide a path for pedestrians to have that connection to Bladensburg Elementary School, and we are pleased with the support that the town has given us, especially the mayor and council on your support for moving forward with this temporary path that's being proposed. So far, project milestones, we've had council meetings, we had a public meeting to share this proposal. There was a community survey that went out to the residents of the town, and we're pleased to report that we have received that positive support, and we've gone through various steps along the way to refine the project. So just to give you a sense of where we're talking about, this is 769C, affectionately known as Quincy Street, and the section that we're looking to repurpose for a one-way pattern is from the Kenilworth Tower Apartments. We originally looked at going all the way east to where Quincy Street turns off and 769C becomes 52nd Avenue. Through input from the community, this was extended southward to a couple hundred feet south of Newton Street, and this is to address concerns that the community has had that have been longstanding with cut-through traffic and speeding along Newton Street as well as Quincy Street, and we determined that M.SHA determined that it was feasible to extend that one-way pattern further south to approximately the location of the Bladensburg Cemetery, which, if you can see my mouse, it's right around, whoops, where it was. So, what we're doing in order to get notice to motorists coming from Kenilworth Avenue from the south is we're proposing a series of signing. The first sign that would be seen along northbound Kenilworth Avenue, Maryland 201, would be for motorists to use the exit for Maryland 450 to access Quincy Street. Anyone who is going through the industrial / residential section of Maryland 769C would see a series of signs letting people know that you can't, that you're unable to go beyond a certain point. So there will be detour signs along the way directing people to certain roads, such as Lawrence Street, and giving notice that they cannot go beyond a certain point. So one of the main topics that has been of concern, and rightfully so, is how to separate the walking path from the travel way. And one of the things that, or the thing that we are seriously considering to implement is a product that's called rubber curbing. This curbing does have some height to it. That is just to give you some perspective. The curb that MSHA uses is generally 8 inches high. This is 5 inches high. The curbing is delineated with retroreflective markings. It can also be delineated with flex posts. And you can see that there are holes on the top of the rubber curbing to insert that flex post to add an additional delineation to make the separation more conspicuous. This is something that's I think will be very effective in providing that protection and that separation between the two uses. Some of the other materials that were considered were guardrail, jersey barrier, and barrels. Each of these had its pros and cons. The thing with the barrels is that, you know, they can get struck, but they tend to not be as, you know, they're used primarily for delineation. It's not necessarily used to protect pedestrians. Jersey barrier is more effective, but jersey barriers are primarily used for work zones and for temporary conditions, and that material is primarily supplied by contractors who do work for MSHA. And then finally, we looked at guardrail, which also would have been effective, but in terms of looking at the final project, the guardrail in the way that it's installed on the roadway would have had negative impacts to the condition of the road surface itself. So with that, my presentation is completed, and I open it up to all of you to ask your questions and concerns.
Thank you, Peter, so much for that information and just a recap of where we are at this moment. I do want to congratulate Mr. Gunn, who I understand is now our District 3 engineer, and also congratulate Ms. Hughes on her change in her role as well, and just welcome the rest of the team to District 3. We do look forward to working with you all in moving this and other projects forward in the coming years. So just wanted to acknowledge that. At this time, while I'm waiting for some hands to be raised, I did just want to go back to something that was on one of the slides, Mr. Campanides. It's the project milestones slide where
Yes.
you mentioned the federal funding.
Yes.
And I know a couple of my colleagues and I had mentioned that we'd be really pleased to advocate to the state and federal government for any of those infrastructure dollars to help fund that the project, whether it's the temporary path that we're looking at or the longer term project. And knowing how extensive that longer term project is going to be, is there anything that the town needs to do in terms of a letter of support for this funding, or are you truly confident that money has truly indeed been secured and we don't need to do anything else to get the IIJA funds?
Right. Winstina, you
So
look
Mayor-
like you wanted to say something.
First, thank you, Mayor James, for that really kind in what you shared about us in our new roles. Second, I would like to say that we have secured federal funding for this project. Additionally, I shared in our chat that we want to let you know that the Maryland Department of Transportation Motor Vehicle Administration is accepting grant applications. And we think that, you know, this type of application could assist in what you were just mentioning, Mayor James. I've shared that the grant request, the time frame, it's from February 24th onward, and it's for fiscal year 2024. And so we would definitely, you know, like to work with you on that. And, you know, we can discuss that a bit further to see what the steps are to apply for that. And this funding is coming from the infrastructure, Jobs Act that was passed.
Great, thank you for that information that you provided in the chat, as well as the explanation. And then just wanted to turn to my colleagues and see if there are any questions, so bear with me while I scroll.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't see any hands at this time, so I'm going to ask the million-dollar question. What is the timing? Because the goal
Yeah,
initially.
I was waiting for that
raise my
question. I
hand, but
know.
yeah,
I
it's
know.
it's not working. So, but
Oh,
go ahead, and then you come back.
okay, I'll
Go
come
ahead.
back to you. I apologize. I did not see
I know I
your
was
hand.
trying to, just like, but I don't know. It's
A
fine.
little cranky tonight. First meeting of 2023, so we have to be patient. I'm sorry. Go ahead, SHA.
Oh, so Ms. Brown, did you have a question? Or if you haven't, I can. So what we're looking at right now is implementing this in spring 2023. And what we're working out right now is paperwork to use the rubber curbing product. This is a product, to reiterate, that has not been used in Maryland. We've been looking at this product, and the district office, I'll say us, the district office, look at the product and looked at how it's used, how it's been used, and it's a promising product, and this would be a great location to try the product. So the challenge that we've been having primarily has been what kind of barrier separation is appropriate for this proposed interim plan. And so this is the product that we're anticipating
Right.
to use.
Okay.
So,
So if you don't
hence
mind, will
the-
you put the product back up, please? And
Yes, yes, ma'am.
and I think you did just hit on a few points. Number one is in terms of barrier separation. That road it's going to be, it well already is pedestrian traffic. So where is that pedestrian friendly? In terms of protection, guardrail, because I take the road every day, and I drive the road every day, and so but yeah, but if you can put that, you said it's the rubbing curb product.
Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
the rubber curb,
Right, that right there. So
okay?
so
And it'll be delineated with flex posts to give that additional vertical separate, the
yeah,
visual that it, that there is a separation. The walking path that we're proposing is along the north side or the westbound side heading toward Maryland 450.
is that
Annapolis
beside the
Road.
Bostwick, on the side of the Bostwick house, or on the side of where the houses are?
Where the on the other side of the houses, where's you said it was the
In front of the houses?
Yeah, it's the northbound side, council member. So that's the side that runs along the Bostwick House property.
yes, Bostwick House property.
Yeah, but yeah, and just for clarification for residents too, because I know we talk northbound, east, west, and but to give more of a visual to everyone on the phone. So along the side where the Bostwick
Yes,
house is there, with all the trees, and so right, okay. So in terms of the flex post, I'm glad that you mentioned the flex post, because right now where the public playhouse is, they have flex posts there. They've run into them, they've been torn down, and so that's supposed to be somewhat of a pedestrian friendly as well. So I have a great concern about the flex post, something that's looking at something shored up that's really, if a car makes a sudden whatever and veers towards pedestrians walking, how where is that protection.
Right. So the curb is going to be the primary protection, the separation. The
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not being rude, and I understand.
No, you're
But that-
fine.
yeah, but that's not
No,
much
you're
protection.
fine.
Yeah. It's
No, you're
just a
absolutely
little-
fine. Don't,
And
you're,
I do
yes.
want to just interject because I want to keep us on track. We've got about 3 to 5 minutes left here. And so, but I do want to make sure Councilmember Brown's question is addressed. Peter, is the decision final in terms of the material selected, or is there an opportunity for us to come back and say as a town, even if we have to submit a letter of request, that we would really be keen on something that's more like a guardrail, or maybe a step between the guardrail and the rubber curbing. We understand this is temporary, so we're not trying to have you put the Jersey barriers up, knowing, you know, that this is a small piece of a bigger project. But I do want to just be respectful of the concern for the separation between people and the cars moving on that street.
Thank you,
Right.
Mayor.
So Mayor James, we'd be happy to share another context, another context-driven project that we worked on previously. And I think that that could give a sense of how we've thought about this. And it can also give a sense of why Peter thinks that these are improvements that really speak to the concerns that are had. I also know too that we did have some discussions about the guardrail and also the concrete barriers. Peter, if you could just share a little bit with us some more about why we are going with the rubber curbing as opposed to going with the other 3 that were highlighted on the slides.
And Peter, just before you answer that too, if I can throw in one more thing for you to speak to, which is if it indeed has to be the rubber curbing. I've seen this in major cities where they have that, but they also incorporate the huge flower pots in the street, ever so many feet, to serve as an additional, more hardline buffer. And then it also provides a means of community beautification. So I'm thinking of Edmonston, if you're familiar with that, and the area approaching the Decatur Street Bridge over there.
Yes.
You can definitely make a note of that.
If I jump in for a second.
Yeah.
Here in Westina. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, for the acknowledgement about me and Westina's new positions. We appreciate working with you in the town. What I would say is this: I think why this interaction has been successful to date is because it's been iterative with getting feedback from you in the town and the community. And we want that to continue until we get to implementation. Yes, there are some reasons that we landed on the curbing and the flex posts, but I think we're still open to discussion from the community. So maybe we can have that dialogue continue and try to integrate as much as we can some of the feedback that we get tonight, and more than likely subsequent to tonight's meeting as well.
That's super helpful. Thank you for that, Mr. Gunn. And again, to the entire team, I really do appreciate all that effort that you've put into meeting with us, meeting with our residents, looking at the data from our community survey, and really helping us arrive at the best final product for this project. So we will not belabor your evening or the discussion, but just want to thank you again, and just we'll work through Mr. Charnovich on any sort of follow-up conversation. If we can even have you out for a site visit. I know your engineers come out from time to time, but perhaps we could send 1 or 2 folks from the council and some staff to meet with you on site and just talk through those options. But again, really appreciate all of your time and effort, and can't wait until the finished product, not the the shovel digging, but we are ready for the final. So thank you for working with us, and wish you all a good night.
Absolutely. And we'll share some dates I'll reach out to Rich to share some dates on that site visit. And we'll also come prepared to share some thoughts on the flower pots that you mentioned.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time and continued, continually working with us on this.
The feeling is mutual. Thank you, SHA. Have a good night, team.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you all for your attention to that important presentation from our representatives from the MDOT SHA. And moving through the agenda to the next update, I wanted to just share some statuses with respect to the Bladensburg High School football field. I know some of us on the call have either been on emails with questions about the status of the track and field updates, or either on in other forums, you've seen questions regarding the status of where things are. It is a bit lengthy, so I'm going to do my best to keep this short and sweet under the 10 minutes here. But the latest update from Dr. Golson, the CEO of Prince George's County Public Schools, indicates that the design of the stadium renovation project is about 99% complete. The turf field design is in the late stages of permit review, and the field lighting design is 99% complete. Again, that's just the design, but also in addition to that, it's in the late stages of permitting review, and we all know how fun permitting review is. So I stress that because I want to make sure that when you're getting questions from community members, that they understand the town's not holding this project up, the school isn't. The review process for the permit, it is extensive and it does take time. They have redesigned the team scoreboard, and that design project is 90% complete. There was some back and forth between internal folks at the school on finalizing what their recommendations were. And then once it went to engineering, of course, that was a different level of design and review. Again, that status is 90% complete. With respect to the lighting, because they are looking at installation of additional lighting for safety, of course, in that area. The third-party review comments were received from its Sports Lighting Foundation, who's handling that. And just before the holiday break, they received approval of the lighting, and they were issued the permitting necessary from Prince George's County DPI to begin that process. But again, in terms of timing, that was mid-December. So just as they were breaking before the holidays. So now that we're back, I would anticipate that we'll start seeing movement on the lighting installation. In addition to that, the electrical review process is happening in tandem with the lighting project, and that has gone through third-party review. That is still subject to approval to DPI in terms of the electrical application. So that is still forthgoing. In terms of the site development fine grade plan, the first round of comments were received in early December, and then the preliminary approval was granted around mid-December. So upon approval by Maryland National Park and Planning and the Department of Engineering, the permit will be issued. And then jumping a bit down to notice of intent of approval, the request was certified through Maryland Department of Environment. This was again mid-December, just after our last council meeting. And they noted that they would start the public review and comment prior to MDE issuing approval. Again, that was in mid-December. And for obvious reasons, Maryland Department of Environment does have to be involved in the construction of this site, especially given the flooding and other environmental issues with the site. That's an important step that cannot be rushed over. In addition, they are looking at a tree conservation approval permit, which is also important with the flood control in the area and just helping to remediate some of the water challenges over there. And then the stormwater management concept was approved in early December. So lots of permitting applications and requests have been forthgoing. The program or the project overall is still in progress. And so again, just wanted to make you all aware, you may not always see a permit has been improved. I recognize that, but things are still happening and the project is still moving in the right direction. And I know Senator Augustine, as well as myself and Dr. Golson, are committed to just pushing this project forward as quickly as possible so that we definitely have a ribbon cutting for the fall football season, if not sooner. Councilmember Rout, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor James. I actually have a question / comment. Given that this information is very important to the community based off of past promises that have been presented and then failing because of funding and other pushbacks like public health emergencies, it would be nice to have all of these dates highlighted that can be sent out, whether that's a press release from us or the school system, somewhere that, it's nice that we have this information for the public who is attending tonight or streaming or watching it at a later date. But in the spirit of transparency, it is just nice that it is sent out. In addition to, my question is, where would parents, alumni, anyone interested be able to provide public comment? It sounds like a couple opportunities are closed, but in the event that there is a member of our community that would like to voice their comment, opinion, it would be nice also for them to be able to do so.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Rout, for that input, and I will make a note about the press release concept. Again, it's not a town project, it is the school system, so I'll coordinate getting that question to Dr. Golson. And then with respect to the design and so forth, that's been underway for well over a year. And so I do think, then I don't want to speak for the school system, so that's why I say I think it's probably too late to offer design input and so forth. I know the principal, Coach O, and others very early on were very heavily involved in the branding of what they wanted this to look like in the team. So I will just reach out to Dr. Golson in that regard and say, hey, if people want to give input, where should that be directed to? And I think we can include that in our weekly e-blast on Thursday. So yeah, thank you for that. And then with respect to being transparent, I think that's the reason why I take these updates very seriously, because the meetings are recorded. And so anytime I see negativity, negative comments, I refer people to our town council meetings to say, I'm so glad you asked about that, alumni. Please check out our meeting on such and such date. Here's the recording with the update. I think this is our best tool for transparency and getting this information out to the community, because we know folks love their social media and they go there for their updates. So appreciate the questions. And let me
Mayor
just make
James,
sure
but
that was
people
the
also
last
like
one.
written information as well, although, because there are a number of individuals that are not on social media that are pretty active in our community, and that don't have ties to social media. And so we must include them as well. So even though people do like their social media, it is still who of us to, be transparent as they are our customers.
Excellent, excellent. So again, as I said, we can share the updates in our community e-blast as one method of written correspondence. I don't know that we would go to the extent of doing a door-to-door mailer or anything of
No,
that
I
extent.
don't think
And
that's
frankly, that's
necessary.
not our role. It is the school
Yeah,
system.
it's not necessary.
So
Just a
yes.
press release would be
So
sufficient.
we will kick those ideas over to Dr. Goldson.
Thank you.
And she did announce that she is retiring after this year. So please, if you have an opportunity, thank her for her dedication to our students for well over 30 years, because she has done an amazing job and been a wonderful partner, not just on this project, but with many others. So that concludes our old business. Moving forward, we're now on to the Bladensburg Fire Department request for ambulance funding. Mr. Charnovich, I'm looking at the lineup and I don't see Chief Sumner. If he's not on, I'll just keep moving.
I'm here, ma'am.
There he is.
Yeah, he's here. I'm currently driving.
That is not good. Please pull over, sir. So at this time, Chief, I know you had a request for the town and wanted to give you the opportunity to share so we can understand how to support. So with that, we'll turn the floor over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Like I said, I'm currently driving. I'm going from work to the firehouse now, so it never ends. The Bladensburg Fire Department, as you guys know, is 100% volunteer, and we usually purchase all of our own apparatus through bingos that we have, other fundraising methods, or through grants. Over the years, we've purchased a ladder truck, several engines, ambulances, support vehicles. In 2021, we signed a contract in which we brought the new engine in. You guys have seen it, the Seagrave engine. And that was a $700,000 piece of equipment. Ambulances nowadays are not cheap. The new one that is being built, it's well over $350,000 in total. We have 2 ambulances currently. One is a 2006 Freightliner that has well over 250,000 miles on it. And as of a couple months ago, it actually got deadlined to where we're not going to put no more money into it because it's just not cost effective. And the 2016 ambulance that we have, it's getting to the point of 150,000 miles, actually 160,000. And it's getting to the point of every other month that it's starting to end up in the shop for various reasons. The reason we're coming to the town is we have a lot of large expenditures. As the town is aware, we own the post office. The post office is having issues with the roof. That is $119,000 that we are putting out of our budget to fix that roof. And I understand that we have a rental property and that's part of owning it. But by doing that, it is taking away the funding for a piece of emergency equipment to help the citizens. On top of that, we've discovered a mold issue in the firehouse. That issue is going to cost about $17,000 by the time we get the mold removed and get the bathrooms and stuff renovated and bring them all up to ADA compliant. So we are asking the town for assistance with this. If this is done, this council has already made history as the first all-female council in the state of the town of Bladensburg. If you guys approve this and you guys assist the fire department, you guys will make history once again, as this will be the first time in the 100 years of the fire department the town has ever fully purchased a piece of equipment. So I really hope you guys would consider the $261,000 remaining balance for the ambulance. And for those that aren't aware, I'm sorry, ma'am, I had to get my breath in my voice a little bit, sorry. For those that aren't aware about our call volume, that ambulance, once it goes in service, it's going to be running close to 3,500 to 4,000 calls a year. It doesn't only serve the citizens of Bladensburg. That ambulance will run as far down as Marlboro Pike, if not down to Silver Hill Road. It is all over Prince George's County. It is one of the busiest volunteer ambulances in Prince George's County. The only one that tops us, I believe, is Morningside, and that's on the south end of Prince George's County. So it would definitely be used. It will be used appropriately, and it's a great representation of the town, I think. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief. And sorry you're dealing with the throat issue we talked about earlier, and I hope this isn't straining you too much, but we appreciate you coming to us first with the need, because for our emergency services, this is a huge concern. We have an aging population, and many of us see that the ambulance hitting the road several times a day, particularly for our older population. And it's concerning that one ambulance is already down, and then the other one, which I've seen getting towed back to the station, causes you to have to borrow an ambulance from the county or some other jurisdiction. And I also recognize, yes, you own the property and the situation with the roof, those kinds of repairs and mold, you can't delay those. So I realize that's important. But in my view, I would say the ambulance is urgent in addition to being important, because we're not out of the clear with COVID. And just the day-to-day operations. I mean, hearing 3,500 to 4,000 calls annually, that's a significant number of service. And so just want to open it up to the council for any sort of feedback or questions for Chief Sumner in this request. Councilmember Blunt.
Do I get to sign my name on it? Cause I just kidding.
Yes, and your beautiful picture.
Okay, that's it. That's all.
You heard that, Chief. Councilmember Rout.
Yes, thank you. This question has been asked of me, of residents, when I'm out performing outreach. I hear that you serve all the way down as far as Marlboro Pike, and Can you share the perspective of fire departments and how they rely on their home municipality as any confusion related to what normally takes place?
So in all honesty, there are a lot of municipalities that do not support their fire department. I know that College Park does very minimal. The Brentwood, Cromer Manor, Cottage City, they recently supported their fire department. I know that they gave them a check for new equipment for their new fire truck. But generally, overall, a lot of municipalities are not supportive of the fire department. And I know Mayor James can attest to that. She's gone to a couple of the fire department meetings, and there's a lot of members that are in awe about how supportive our town is.
Yeah,
I'm not
and
sure if that answers your question or not.
yeah, and Chief, just to tag on what you're saying, I know at the most recent meeting, I guess that was in December before the holidays, I really was impressed. That meeting was at the Silver Hill Fire Station, and to hear the number of volunteers who are having such challenges with getting financial support from the local municipalities that they serve, it was definitely concerning, because this is not an optional department. We need our fire department. We need those EMS services. You don't want to be that victim who's calling and your firehouse or the EMTs are out of service. That is just horrific. And we've seen in the last couple of years what's happened when the closest firehouses are out of service, you know, with the big West Lanham Hills fire, Chief, which was devastating. So,
Yes, in the street.
yeah. Councilmember Brown?
I have one quick question. I've always been curious. The ambulatory services, is that a cost to the residents, the Bladensburg residents, when they call for the ambulance? Do you know?
So Prince George's County Fire EMS Department does non-aggressive billing. And what that is if you have insurance, they will bill the insurance. They do not bill the individual. And by non-aggressive, let me rephrase that. They do bill the individual, but it's not aggressive. So they'll send you a bill. And if you take it and throw it away in the trash, not pay it, it's not going to go to collections. The county won't pursue you. There will be nothing held against you. So it's called non-aggressive billing. But the majority of residents do have insurance, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Kaiser, and that's what usually ends up getting the bill.
Mayor,
Oh, and I was just, I want to say one other thing, and how much, what's the ask? I don't know if you said the cost, what's the ask?
it's 480 and some higher. Mhm.
I'm just
Okay,
talking about
the
for,
cost,
No,
the cost for
I'm talking
ambulance
about the
ride?
cost for the ambulance.
well, you know, actually both.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
are you talking about the billing portion or the cost of the ambulance?
Well, both, right, since you put it out, yeah, both. Mhm.
All right, well, the cost for billing, and again, that's billed to insurance. If it's an ALS unit, it's $750. If it is a BLS transport, which is what we provide, it's $500. Now, understand that even though they bill out $500 or they bill out $750, predetermined prices are already worked out. So there may be times you bill out for $500, but the insurance company is only agreeing to pay $121. So you're not guaranteed that full amount. And there's times insurance companies don't even pay because they're like, hey, you weren't specific enough on the injury or you weren't specific enough on the symptoms, so we're not going to pay you. Again, that goes back to documentation and stuff like that. And the cost of the ambulance, this new ambulance is well over $350,000.
So is that the cost that's asking of the town, $350,000?
No, so the town was very gracious and had purchased a chassis. That was, I believe, $90,000. This is to ask for the remaining $100,000. I believe Mayor James and the town acting town administrator has that paperwork.
I don't know if it happened to anybody else, but it totally went out.
I recall that the number is in our packet is 261. That's the balance. 261,117.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's like a little, like a paper, with like what it looks like.
Did the mayor leave? I mean,
Right. I don't know if Mayor James is still on or.
Yeah, she is still.
She's still connected. Her camera's off. Oh, she's gone.
So I will tell you guys that, and this is another thing that if you guys help us out with this, if you pay this off in full, that will actually push us up 5 years in the next step of buying a new engine, because the county recently removed one of my engines. They said it was too old, even though they just recently put $40,000 worth of work into it. Now they're saying we can't run it, even though 2 years ago they just completely upgraded it. So by paying this ambulance off with that total, you push us up 5 years, which means my 2008 engine, I can start to replace. And I can tell you that with inflation and the way prices have changed, the engine that we paid $700,000 for in 2021 now costs over $900,000. So by pushing us up 5 years, when we actually start to do this in 2024, hopefully, number one, we wouldn't even see the new engine until 2026, but I guarantee it'll be close to $1 million for a new fire truck.
Madam, Mr. Town Administrator, our mayor is absent. Unfortunately, this fiscal year, we did not select a mayor pro tem by default because we did not select one. I served as a mayor pro tem previously.
Excuse me, Jocelyn, I don't know, because
I just wanted to, I was talking to the town administrator. I wanted to receive some guidance how we should operate. Oh, here she is. She just rejoined. Thank you.
Okay, but to address that, and we can have mayor address that, Councilmember Route, in as far as selecting a mayor pro tem, because to my understanding, mayor pro tem was selected for this coming year. So Mayor, she can answer.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that the council took a vote. My apologies.
no, I had turned it down, so I don't know who took it up after that.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that it was taken up for a vote.
Mayor, can you hear?
I think she's trying to reconnect. She probably cannot
Oh
hear.
yeah, I can see her, but I don't know if she has sound yet.
But Chief Summoner, if I can contact your office so we can talk about some social services needs, because I know you all make a lot of runs up here just to get people off the floor and things like that. They use you all as a crutch. So I would love to meet with you on some social needs pertaining to that, because I'm sure the other seniors building is going through the same thing.
Okay,
So I'll
we can
call
definitely
you.
do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
She said keep going. So Councilmember Brown, are you mayor pro tem?
Well, to my understanding,
Okay,
because
So-
I mean, I know that,
okay.
okay.
So she asked us to keep going.
Okay, all right. So what we'll do at this point here, so the Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department, you are requesting ambulance funding. And so that's in the amount of $261,100 261, 117. And I guess in terms of the mayor and council, when we look at that, I guess that would come from opera funding. Is that where that would come from?
Rich had his hand up.
We're looking to support, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Rich had his hand up.
Okay, I apologize, Mr. Charnovich, I didn't see you. Go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Blunt and everyone. I guess a couple of points. One, going back a minute, the mayor, Mayor James did text me earlier while she's getting up and running and asked me to inform everybody to turn the meeting over to Councilmember Brown as Mayor Pro Tem. She didn't give me any details of that as the rest, but I just wanted to point that out that that's why I had my hand raised initially. Yeah, but I can chime in also on the second part of the question that was just posed. That the Mr. Tonelli and I, although he couldn't attend tonight's meeting, we chatted about this, and our staff recommendation would be that should this be funded, that it'd be used from ARPA funding. We think it's a good source for the ARPA funds, and that would be our recommendation. He and I spoke about it. In fact, we did you'll see later in this item be required to be on the regular meeting agenda. Should a vote be taken. And there was an ordinance drafted that I placed in the packets too. So you'll see that ordinance. That ordinance includes a couple different funding streams that I knew would be on this agenda. That includes this one, as well as the next two items on the agenda with the business assistance, et cetera, et cetera. We'll get to that. But I did want to point out that should action be taken, the pieces are in place, I guess, per se, to do that within the ordinance that'll be on the regular meeting agenda. Hope I answers your question, Councilmember Brown.
Oh, okay, thank you, Mr. Charnovich. And I guess at this juncture here, because the mayor is experiencing a little technical difficulties right now, that I mean, we won't take any action. We'll have, if there's any further discussion, because we definitely want her to be a part of it before we take any action. But is there any further discussion from the mayor and council? Yes, Councilmember Black.
I'm in full support, so whether it come from the opera, and I'm in full support.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I mean, I don't know if Councilmember Rout or Councilmember McBride want to say whether or not you're in support of it now.
I'm in full support also. Yeah, because I remember them falling on the floor. The ambulance is called, trust me, quite a bit every week.
Okay. Councilmember Rout?
Yeah, I definitely am a supporter of our volunteer fire department, and they need these tools in order to serve our community. And having a down ambulance, that's going to take away from our residents. So I do think that the council should support this at this time. And this is a capital purchase, and capital purchases are included in allowable things that ARPA can pay for. Actually, it's actually what it was designed for. So I do think that this is fiscally responsible, and we should vote in favor.
Okay, and I mean, I am in support of it as well. I'm definitely, when it comes to providing those types of ambulatory services to our residents is very important. We have a number of senior buildings, number one, but we also have our other residents, who are not senior in the town of Bladensburg, who use the ambulatory service. And it's just because every minute counts. When you call the fire department and for ambulance, every second counts. So I will, well, we can definitely, make that a note, and then we'll talk with the mayor. I won't speak for the mayor, but we'll talk to the mayor, and then we'll move forward during our town meeting. Next on the agenda, and if someone can also, I'll look, but help with try to keep us on time. Next on the agenda is the ARPA Business Assistance Budget and Application Process. So I'm gonna talk about that real quick. Because as we discussed during our special session, and just looking at the small businesses, looking at the large businesses and the small businesses here in the town of Bladensburg, we talked about just being the fairness, being inclusive, and looking at definitely and businesses that have with their legal entity here in Bladensburg. But I would like to mention also that that businesses should, and especially some of the nonprofits, just look at where your business is located, because all municipalities have received ARPA funding. And so I'd just like to just put that out there for the businesses as well. Also, one of the things that we're doing, continuing to do, and that is to scrub the business list to ensure that businesses are still on the list. And we also discussed a flat fee that we're going to, a flat amount that will be distributed to the businesses. We have the application, and I wanted to thank the town staff once again for the great work working through Christmas and the holiday season, and also New Year to get this wonderful application for the businesses completed, because we discussed it, looking at the process and not making it a complicated process for the businesses, but just making it fair and doing our due diligence, and just making sure that we are taking care of our home-based businesses who serve us and our residents daily. And I looked at the application, and it's a number of questions. They're not hard questions; they're some simple questions, and I think it looks pretty good, the application for the businesses. So the mayor and council, the application. Can you hear us now, Mayor? Okay.
Sorry, my computer decided to shut down and update in the middle of the meeting. Beautiful timing. Sorry.
Okay. And then I'll finish this right here, and then I'll tell you how we closed out with line item number 8 under new business. Okay. And so like I said, the application, that's a very, very, very good application. Once again, thank you all for your business and your due diligence there. And also, so it's in the, that's what I was saying, it's in the mayor and council packets. You all can take a look at it. Definitely give me your feedback and comments. I do only have, in terms of the postcard, I do only have one correction that I would like to make to the post office. And that is just taking out where it says assistance to businesses, where it says in arrears. So because we really aren't dealing with arrearages, but we're dealing with kind of a good faith in providing some funding to the businesses. So that's what I have to say about the postcard. And you all can, Mayor, Council, let me know if you all have any other changes or additions, anything that you all want to make to the postcard. And so so once you all get back to me regarding if after you all take a look at the I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Blunt.
Yeah, I had one thing, but it probably is something that might need to be in there because I'm not sure. But number 11, whether they was giving COVID relief before, does that matter to us if we just want to give a kind donation? I'm just asking. It might need to be in there still, it might not. I'm just asking.
From my standpoint, I don't. So, Mr. Chernovich, do you want to answer that question as to why it's there? I mean, I don't know that it has any bearing on our opera funding and distributing funds to them.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. I think to make a long story short, I developed an initial application and then shared it with Mr. Tonelli to review and enhance and to put his finance touch on it. I was looking at the administrative side and he was looking at the finance side. And frankly, that's one of the items that he added to the application. But I would say that I don't know, I guess maybe a good way to put it is, it's not a bad thing for us to know in general, but then it also depends on how ultimately our program is going to be, our ultimate program is going to be set up and configured. So if it's not going to be a competitive process, then maybe we don't need it. If it's going to be flat across the board, as we talked about in the special meeting.
Right.
So I guess I'm not trying to be evasive with the question, but I think it sort of depends on how our ultimate program is done. So I guess to have it on there is not necessarily a bad thing. So we just know, and then we go from there. That's my thought. But
because
thank you, Mr. Chernovich.
we never came up with a dollar amount. Am I not correct?
Well, I mean, we were fluctuating between the 3,000 and 5,000 dollar amount. That's what I wrote down. What you thinking? What?
3.
Okay.
Because to do the 5,000, remember we talked about it, it would just wipe out a lot. And we just giving a kind donation saying, thank you for your business and the hardship that you had. That's just my opinion. But if you all want to do higher, hey, it's okay.
Yeah, and I think once we scrub the list, as we said, we scrub, and we have about 3 or 4 more minutes. And once we scrub the list, then we'll get the exact number of businesses, and then we can look at the numbers. And I'm 1 second, Councilmember Route, I'll be right with you. But then also, and I'm thinking maybe we don't need it because it says please, but then we asked to please list the funds, the award date, the amount, the use of the funds. I don't know that that's, because I don't know that that's really pertinent to us, and we need to know all of this just because we're trying to give our businesses some relief and some assistance, and not compile more on top. But okay, go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. I do concur that seems a little bit burdensome, and that's very different than what we had talked about. I know that I did have that as a point of having it be on the application if we were ranking applications. But towards the end, we all came to agreement that we weren't going to rank the applications and that we were just going to give flat amounts based off of equity. And so I do think, and I did want to just comment to thank our staff. This is phenomenal. This is everything we talked about, like even this optional question. And so just thankful that you all were able to wrap it up for us and put a nice bow on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Councilmember Brown, again, apologies for the technical issues and really appreciate you taking the meeting forward. I did have a couple of questions because I came in after the discussion had already began.
Okay.
It is concerning when I hear the town is giving donations to businesses because businesses pay taxes to the town. And I think for transparency, for ethical reasons, that wording is very concerning. And so what I would ask is that we keep our language in terms of the program consistent with the other ARPA programs that we've enacted. So for example, with the housing assistance, mortgage assistance, my recommendation is that this not be titled a donation, but it is business assistance. And I don't know that we just blanketly write checks to people. I think it has to be a situation where we're saying, like you said previously, you complete the application if you so desire, because we have had some businesses that have done well and during these past couple of years and wouldn't, be interested. So having the expectation that you do have to apply, funds are available until the funds run out. So it's clear that you have to get it in. Submitting your application in the 11th hour does not help your chances. You know, it's while the funds last. And that's not to say we can't come back and as a body decide to allocate more, but I just want to throw those ideas out as you're finalizing this moving forward, and just appreciate you you know, helping with the design of the mailer, working with the Councilmember Blunt initially to just really move this forward, because Councilmember Blunt has been honest about the nonprofits for Bladensburg. And I think this very strongly does help us take some strong actions in that regard, along with the businesses. So I do want to recognize Councilmember Blunt for pushing us to get this done and being patient while we were really trying to get all that rental assistance managed. Yes, and the mortgage and utility. So again, appreciate you all working so hard on this. But
And
it looks
Mayor,
like,
and one other thing that I want us to look at is question number 14. Has applicant or owners listed above declared bankruptcy or defaulted on a loan in the past 3 years? And if so, explain why. I don't know if that's pertinent to us as well. So,
Councilmember Brown, also
Yes.
along those lines, so for question 14 and also 11, I think I would just turn that back over to you, because really, I don't like asking a question if I'm not going to do anything with that information. But if we're asking the question because it's going to be helpful to us as we move forward, then I can see the value in either of those. So for example, during COVID, I worked with the state comptroller's office to do some webinars where they walked business owners through the PPP program and other resources that were available. And so it can be helpful if we come up against another situation like that, where we want to know the trend of businesses and, you know, the frequency of them taking advantage of the town program in addition to state or federal dollars, so we know who to go to with resources. But if there's no reason, if we're not going to do anything with it, my recommendation would be to strike both of those.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that, Neil. Appreciate it.
Council member, I am in agreement with question number 13, only because it looks at our risk. It looks at the risk as it relates to an organization that we are assisting. I'm gonna give an example. If they have declared bankruptcy in this present fiscal year and they're waiting for a court date, and the bankruptcy is not going to be favorable for their outcome, that's information. I mean, do we want to not waste resources, but do we want to send resources to someone who's who's actively in bankruptcy? I do think that question 13 has merit, but I am in agreement to strike question 11.
Okay, we were talking about 11 and 14, not 13.
I'm sorry, 14. My apologies.
And then just
the bankruptcy question.
Yeah, and Councilmember Rudd, I think also that's got to be on the checklist for staff, even if we don't collect it on the application. Just as a fiduciary, the staff tends to do their background, and I can definitely see that being one of the checklists for the staff as they're processing, whether it's on here or not. Someone can put no, but staff will still need to. Yep, exactly. So I think that's a very valid point. But again, thank you all for taking the time to really think through how to make this a simple, easy, and useful program for our businesses and nonprofits.
Yeah, because the goal is to get them applied, not to turn them away.
Right. And also to address the challenges, because frankly, on some of those webinars, the biggest hurdle was the paperwork for the small businesses. And many of our companies that are based in Bladensburg said flat out to the comptroller, I didn't apply because it was cumbersome. The documents they requested, I don't even have because I'm a small business owner. So I think this beautifully addresses simplifying it, just getting a small, but still impactful amount of resources. So definitely appreciate that.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor, just to take you back to question A real quick, just wanted to let you know that we did not take a vote on it, but all council members were in support.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And it is listed under financial business, just in case the council wanted to proceed with that. So it is under financial business for the the 7 o'clock meeting. And then I know we only have 19 minutes left, but I just want to try to make sure we cover all the things that are listed here, because I know some of the team have submitted these agenda items. So for the community grants budget, this was also noted in the budget ordinance from you, Mr. Charnovich. So just wanted to turn it over to you for an update on the community grants, unless you've already spoken to it.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. So this particular item actually resurrected out of the December 15th special meeting that was held on the ARPA funding. And I don't want to put word. I think it was Councilmember Rout. I don't want to put words in your explanation. But I think the idea was to put this on the agenda to discuss ways to help the nonprofits who are serving Bladensburg, but not legally domiciled in Bladensburg. Is that correct, Councilmember Rout?
That's correct, Mr. Charnovich. And just to briefly clear it up, was that there were a number of nonprofit organizations that have like a satellite office in another county, or they're part of a bigger organization, but provide daily services or weekly services to our residents. And, instead of telling them no, or instead of having, being fiscally responsible for these ARPA funds, we collectively just agreed and talked about, well, maybe we could have our community grants mirror the same amount that we're giving out, and then they could have an opportunity to compete for the grant, since that's something that we do. But we found out that the community grants was absent from our budget, and to my knowledge, recollection, we struck it because we knew we were going to have these ARPA funds. And so that's just a recommendation to put it back in, and however many awards that we normally give out, match it up to the amounts of whatever the ARPA amount is for the businesses.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Rout. And I do recall we specifically during the budget time did agree not to put money in the community grants, to really focus on the community nonprofits, again, using Councilmember Blunt's words, who are in Bladensburg, serve in Bladensburg. But I do think there is room to support those nonprofit entities that aren't based here. And that was why we didn't, completely do away with the community grants line item, just thinking through things I recall from our conversation. It was like, we'll address that later, but right now we want to make sure we start prioritizing with the ARPA funds, the community assistance for nonprofits. So previously, the council authorized 4 of the community grants. So that's the first thing, just agreeing upon the quantity. If we want to stick with 4, which seems reasonable, because we did have years where we didn't get all the grants, people didn't apply for them and money was left on the table. So if the council is amenable to that, I would recommend we stick with the 4 for our community partners. And then in terms of the amounts, in the past, we've traditionally done $2,000 per organization, but I did hear a difference in the amount, which was $3,000. And so my question there would be, where do we want to pull this from? Because there is savings in the operational budget, or is it the council's will that we pull it from ARPA? Because initially when we were talking about the budget, we were very clear. We wanted ARPA dollars to be used for businesses and nonprofits established in Bladensburg. And so the community grants, as you said, can help with those others and be funded out of our operational budget using some of our savings.
Thank you,
Councilmember Rout.
Yeah, so it was the second option, which was to pull it from operations, because it was like, well, if we pull it from ARPA, why can't we just do the application for everybody to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we talked through that. It was very, so if we could just pull it somewhere from operations, that was the request to Mr. Tonelli, if he could find, was like $12,000. We were saying 4 times 3.
Mm-hmm.
From somewhere. Yep.
Perfect. So, Councilmember Brown, I see your hand.
Thanks, Mayor. Really quick. And the thing to consider, and the operational would make more sense because eventually ARPA funding is going to go away. And then we need to kind of like think forward thinking in terms of, future years that we're going to keep it at that same amount, and where's the money going to come from? That's all.
And I'm looking at the town administrator budget and see, for example, line item 6260, we've only expended 510 of that $60,000. And so if you all agree, we could, I would think, pull it from that particular line item, given that with the trajectory we're on for hiring, that individual probably won't be on board until the end of this quarter or beginning of the next quarter. And so I can't see them expending $60,000 on transportation. That was an annual amount for the call up or Port Towns bus. So does that, okay, just making sure everybody's okay with that. All right, so Mr. Charnovich, I see your hand. And then again, that line item was 6260 for transportation under the town administration budget. Was your hand still up, Mr. Charnovich, or was that from before?
No, sorry, I was making a note there, Mayor. Mr. I'll be brief. I know we're getting short on time. I'll try to be brief. Mr. Tonelli and I, before he departed, we did talk about a couple different options where you could pull these items from. Frankly, that was not one of the areas we referenced, but that is definitely an option that we can do. The other two items that Mr. Tonelli and I talked about were the Public Works Director, which as we know, we're transitioning TAs and everything. We've spent nothing out of that category, virtually nothing. And then the other area was the actual town administrator budget for this fiscal year for that estimated $12,000. But certainly that the third option you just referenced would work as well. So just want to throw all the options on the table, that there are options. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Charnovich. So yes, if we could do line item 6260 and then just reflect that amount, the agreed upon for grants at $3,000 a piece in the budget amendment, because I know you'll have to read that. And I want to give you some time to update that between meetings so you're ready for the reading of the ordinance. Let's see. So I think that concludes the community grants budget conversation with the fantastic fireworks proposal. I'm going to go quick on that, Mr. Charnovich, unless there's something specific, but my understanding is the vendor wants to lock in our dates before the summer schedule fills up. The cost, I believe, is the same as prior years, requiring a deposit more immediately, and then closer to the event date is when final payment is due. I just wanted to ask, is this our same vendor, Fantastic Fireworks, from last year?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, so that helps having that relationship there, because as you all may recall, we did have a challenge with weather a few years ago. And I think, God forbid, heaven forbid, if that happens again, at least we know they'd be willing to work with us on that. Councilmember Brown, you had a question regarding the fireworks.
Just real quick, Mayor, I'll just, what is the cost? So, as you say, it's the same as over the past years. That's all this one.
Mayor, may I answer?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Charnovich.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Brown, it is, I believe it's $10,000 on the dot.
Okay.
So council member, the 50% deposit would be due within 10 days after agreeing to the contract. And then the second payment, as I said, would be due closer to the actual event. Councilmember Rout.
Do we have a line item? We've exhausted our community events line.
Mr. Charnovich, with respect to the community events line item being exhausted, let me just look under
The mayor and council
budget. So
yeah, so Mayor, Mr. Tonelli, where are you at? Oh, Mr. Tonelli. No, so it's funny. He and I have chatted about this multiple times now. So the July 4th event is always a challenging event accounting wise, because it happens right at the beginning of the new fiscal year. So I think what you'll find is Mr. Tonelli a lot of times will strategize how he allocates this. The main reason we're booking this now is to get on their calendar, for the major event of the July 4th thing, July 4th holiday. But so I think the short way to say it is at least the first $5,000 we can find somewhere to put it, but then the second 5,000 will come out of next fiscal year's budget, you could say, if that makes sense. It's because of how he accounts for that.
And again, Mr. Charnovich, I believe we'd have to do a budget amendment to move it, but just use it. Yeah, using again the 6260, which of halfway through the fiscal year, we've only expended $510 out of that $60,000 budget. And so I think that would be good use of that town administrator budget for this. Because I was looking, I remember at one point we used to have some of the events housed under the town administrator budget, but since that's no longer the case, I would just recommend pulling it from transportation if everyone agrees.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. So that would now be 17,000 coming from line item 6260 for transportation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. And then quick update, this will be 30 seconds or less. We are finalizing our day of service activity with the Friends of Quincy Run and should have the details sorted out. In short, we're looking to do a cleanup effort along the Anacostia to help with some of the tree work over there, and which obviously, as you know, the trees actually help absorb water, prevent flooding, which is very important with coastal flooding issues in our community. So that will be our activity for this year. The next item on the agenda is the Town of Bladensburg security camera rebate. Councilmember Rout.
Let me talk fast. Okay. So in your council packet, there is a program description and a short application for a proposal for a Town of Bladensburg security camera rebate program. As we all know, violent crime has increased over the last year, tripled over the last 2 years. So in sitting down with Mayor James and Chief Collington, we were approached by a security system to just become a part of a pilot program with them. The program didn't really fit our needs. We didn't really see, it was a free program. What we were interested in is to get some cameras for our residents and possibly sign up for the programmatic aspect of it. Learning that the program really wasn't that. They just wanted us to share information and data. Speaking with Chief Collington, I just came up with just some ideas and proposing that the money for this will be funded out of ARPA at the tune of a rebate for residential and business properties. Cameras can be expensive, but what we want to do is provide the necessary tools to our police department to prevent and solve crime. And we do that with more eyes on the streets. We do that with being able to be a true community. And the ask is if the Town of Bladensburg gives this rebate to an installed outdoor weather appropriate camera, the specs are there. And these are just minimal basic standards, that they will share their footage in the event that there is some type of crime. I want to turn it over to Chief Collington for brief remarks.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Yes, we did have this conversation, myself, Mayor James, and Councilmember Rout, along with the rep. And I can just tell you that my experience with the, having these types of video footages will enhance the ability for us to quickly identify people that are perpetrating crimes. We got porch pirates. We have different types of crimes that occur. Not only that, if a car drives by your neighborhood, we will be able to know exactly who would have the cameras and who will be willing to share video with us. This has been a great opportunity, resource for the police in the past, where I've had experience with it. But just building that database where we can log in and see who all has cameras installed in the community, throughout the community, is a great resource, because we also always ask our residents, if you see something, say something. And this is definitely a resource where we can enhance our ability to solve crime and keep everyone safe in the community.
Thank you for that, Chief. So I know we only have 2.5 minutes remaining before we need to start the council meeting to be compliant with the charter. Are there any questions for Councilmember Rout or Chief Collington regarding the recommendation? Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, have questions, but we can't get it done right now. We gotta go into our.
It's
next-
on the other meeting agenda, so we can continue it there, because I know I have a few questions as well. And then with respect to the town clerk department staffing update, Mr. Charnovich, could you include that in your administrative update for the 7 o'clock meeting?
That's what I was gonna say. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, perfect. So again, thank you all for your patience. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn tonight's work session.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
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 Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. We're adjourned and we'll be back in about a minute and a half.